I have been coaching for approximately 15 years. It has been a wonderful experience. I like the fact that I had the opportunity to coach a very diverse group of people, And besides, I would say less than 5 people that I coach didn't finish the coaching sessions. Less than 5. The other ones that did, I saw the transformation, I saw the healing, and I saw the sense of freedom that they got to achieve, and they began to thrive and grow. And I thank God for that opportunity, and I really do thank God. It wasn't my coaching skills. It wasn't my coaching abilities. No, I was a vessel used by God to help heal people. And one of the primary focuses of the coaching that I do is to heal. Is to heal people who have been hurt in one way or another, and to help them to break from the bondage of that hurt, to become the person that God created them to be, and to reach their full potential. And that's something that I always wanted, and that was triggered. It was triggered by when my mother died. My mother had ovarian cancer, and when we found out about it, she was at stage 4, and they only gave her a year to live. And she did die 11 months later. Very, very, very painful for me. But one thing I remembered after her funeral, the one thing I remember as I was looking at, just looking at the casket and everything, is that my mother didn't know how beautiful she was. And I mean by society standards, my mother was beautiful. Prior to the symptoms of the cancer, she was a beautiful woman, extremely intelligent. She was artistic too. She had a lot of artist abilities that she wasn't aware of. There was a lot of things that she went to her grave with that the world never got to see. I didn't get to see a lot of it. My mother was a very quiet person. A lot of things I found out after she passed away. She was very quiet, very withdrawn, and she kept a lot of things quiet. I didn't know a lot about her history, a lot about her past. I didn't know a lot about anything. A lot of it I found out after she passed away, and the different things that happened to her that put her in that place of silence and shame, and that's how she lived. And so it was after that, and I was like, Lord, I don't ever want to see another person go to their grave not knowing the truth about who they are and who you created them to be. And it was that point, that's what catapulted me into reaching out to people. And that's why I started doing a lot of outreach ministry work first. And that's how the ministry grew, because I did more outreach than anything. I did the workshops, I did the classes, wrote the curriculums, I did a lot of things. But being out where people were hurt, and I was able to help them and help them reach their full potential and to see the change that God wanted to do for their life. Well, the one thing that I always asked people when I was coaching them, and it was always a challenging time, because I asked them, who are you? Who are you? And there were times, and I'll even share this, there are times I took a mirror, I had a full-length mirror, and I would have people stand in front of it, and they didn't want to stand in front of it. They did not want to stand in front of the mirror. Some people, it broke something in them where they began to talk more. They began to share because they had not experienced the shame of confronting themselves. That was very challenging because it's easy to hide. Society teaches us how to hide. When people are hurt, they create these the survival mode. They go into survival mode and they begin to make these defense mechanisms to keep them safe. They don't want to hurt like that again. And that's understandable. I can understand why people don't want to hurt like that, because it's painful. And the one thing that that I see is that they try to avoid that. So one thing that people do, and this is another key point that we talk about in our coaching sessions, is people separating their head from their heart. When there's a head-heart disconnect, then you have a person who either they're being moved mainly by their head or primarily by their heart, when it's supposed to be a balance of both. And that's the part that we don't see a lot of, is that it has to be the balance of the head and the heart. It's not supposed to be the extreme one or the other, because it'll lead you down some not so good roads. Now, when somebody's operating primarily by the head, which is what a lot of people do when they've been hurt or traumatized at some point, and they don't want to deal with that pain, and they just want to shove it away and keep it a secret, then what happens? They shut down their heart and they shift the gear to operate out of their mind, because it's easy to manipulate and control situations. See, I can manufacture a world by setting up the boundaries that I want, and so I only invite people into my arena who can function according to the boundaries that I set. I don't want them getting toward my heart. And that's one of the challenges I face when I'm coaching people, because God will reveal and show me that there's something behind what I see. It's something behind what they're saying. And when I get behind there or get closer, they want to pull back. Now, I had some people who had courage to let's just go straight through it. Let's go straight through. I had some that didn't. Some who got very angry at me and they wanted to just run away from the situation. And some did run, but some came back. And we plunged through. And when they got through that, the change was phenomenal. Now, dealing with the head-heart disconnect is that when you look at yourself, that means that you're just placating and pretending that you have that emotional safety and comfort. It's not always there when it's that disconnect. Now, when you deal with somebody who's dealing with their emotions all the time, if you trigger any part of their emotion, there is chaos all the time with their emotions, all the time. There is no boundary with their emotions. It's just all over the place. So everything is defined by how they feel. And some of you know that's a scary thing to do, to operate according to your feelings. You can just get I don't feel like going to work today. I don't feel like driving the car. I don't feel like cleaning the house. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like meeting anybody new. I don't feel like, or the opposite. Ooh, I really like them. They're a murderer. Well, they're nice though. I like them. I like the way they make me feel. When I talk to people, and when I do assessments and go through sessions, the one thing I always listen for is if they said, well, I think or I feel. When they tell me one of those exclusively, almost all the time, then I know that they're in the head-heart disconnect, and it's something that needs to be changed. I always know it. It's easy to. It's just listening, and I can hear it, and I can see what they do, and we'll have that. And then the moment we deal with it, okay, well, that's one wall down. Let's deal with it. So I do that a lot, and then the funny part is to see how my head-heart disconnect, how I functioned with that a lot. And my thing was, I gave people the permission to tell me who I was, what I was supposed to do, what I wasn't supposed to do. I just tried to get people to like me. That was my biggest thing, is that I always tried to get people to like me. And you know what? It didn't work. I thought it was working. It seemed to be working for a while, but it didn't work. I sacrificed so much of my life to just have people like me. I've always been like that. That's one of the biggest things for me is I want people. I like people. I like watching people. I like talking to people. I like being around people. It's just I'm a people person. I really am. But I gave them permission. And notice how I say it. I can't say that they just took advantage of me because yes, they did. But that wasn't the first step. The first step is I gave them permission to do it. I knew they were lying, but I gave them permission to keep lying. I knew they were taking advantage of me, but I gave them permission to keep taking advantage of me. I thought it was just they were using me. Well, yeah, I knew they were using me, but I gave them permission to continue to do that. I had a friend tell me one time, it was a lady talking about her situation with her husband wasn't nice, and while we were working, she would tell us all these horrible things he was doing, he was saying, and this, that, and the other. And one of my coworkers said, he just listened very calmly, and he said, when I go home, I go up my walkway and I go up the steps, and I wipe my feet on my doormat before I enter into the house. And so the lady looked at me like, okay, and he said, do you know why I do that? And she said, why you wipe your feet on your doormat? He said, yeah. And she said, no, what? Why? And he said, because I can. See, we have to understand, if I've been in an abusive situation for years, then I have to realize that I've been in an abusive relationship for years because I allowed it to happen. I chose to let it happen. I did that. So does that mean that the abuser doesn't have to be dealt with? Because no, they should be dealt with. But the part I have to look at, I allowed it to happen. I saw what they were doing. I knew what they were doing. I let them continue to do that. Now, it's something for somebody to do something to me once. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that again. Okay, then I made a choice. I set a healthy boundary to protect myself. But if I let them do it twice, well, now don't do it again. I'm not going to do it again. And they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. I have to look at, I allowed that to happen. So, which means that before I deal with about the situation with the abuser, let me deal with myself, the enabler. That's the key thing, the enabler. Because I keep hearing people talk about narcissism, the narcissist this, the narcissist that, the narcissist, the narcissist, the narcissist. The one thing about the narcissist that came to my mind, because it kept bothering me, and I kept trying to figure out, why is everybody only talking about the narcissist? I don't hear them saying how the narcissist has the power to do that. In narcissism, you cannot be a narcissist without somebody somewhere at some point in time giving you the authority and the ability to do it. The authority and ability. It takes an enabler for a narcissist to continue narcissism. If you feed something, it will grow. If you don't feed it, it will die. With narcissism, we can't just keep talking about how horrible the narcissist is. No, we have to turn that mirror around and look at, okay, we have an enabler that needs some help. We have an enabler that needs some attention. We have an enabler that needs to confront some issues. What made you an enabler? Then let's talk about the narcissist. Because I'm empowering the enabler to put a stop to narcissistic behavior. So I look at the things in my life. I had to take responsibilities for a lot of things that I allowed to happen to me, a lot of things that people said to me, a lot of things that people did to me, a lot of stuff that was taken from me. I had to look back, why did I do that? Why did I allow that to happen? And when I began that journey, that's when things began to change. People did not know how to handle it. but it did change.